I had a weird idea about Yoshi's Island that I wanted to try and explore. I'll try and explore this now. And it mainly pertains to the cover art, which is fascinating to me somehow. I want to look at it again. This cover art, it shows us several things. Let's see what are the main ones. The thing I want to focus on is the beast, the whale, that bursts out through the image. It bursts out through the sea, rises from the sea. So there is a beast that's rising from the sea, from the water. And this beast that's rising from the sea suddenly becomes visible. This beast wasn't visible before. It is now visible. Wham! It's here, it's in front of you. It's right in front of you. You're seeing it. And Baby Mario is seeing it. Now, Baby Mario is not exactly shocked or surprised by it. That's not the body language that's being given by this box art. That's, what it feels like to me. Yoshi is even smiling. It's not, who knows if it's a smile or not, but I just get the sense that it's a pretty kind of peaceful looking box art. It's an expression of surprise. They both have sort of raised eyebrows in a sense, but Yoshi is smiling. It almost feels as if Yoshi is smiling for both of them or something. Like Baby Mario is sort of like, wow, a big beast, and Yoshi's like, oh wow, the world or something. They're both looking at this thing, and it's sort of like, it's amazing. And Yoshi doesn't exactly stop, right? I can see now that Yoshi is walking. So Yoshi is sort of, on the path, still walking on. This is not going to detain the path. This is just like a, wow, look, amazing. This is the path we're on, and it's amazing. Like, we're looking at it. It's like the it's like awe at what is happening, at what is being seen. And so what was intriguing me about this, though, is that what is being seen is a beast. That's what they're looking at, is some sort of a beast, the archetype of a beast. And yet, what Baby Mario is riding on is a beast. He's riding on a dragon, which archetypally would be a beast of folklore, right? Dragons would be the classic sort of idea of a beast, and it's a human on a beast. It's funny because I think Miyamoto said in some interview that Mario was intended to ride Yoshi from the start. Like, I think the main idea for Mario was already for him to be someone who rides Yoshi, who rides a dragon. Like, Mario is supposed to be a rider of a dragon. So it was almost like supposed to be part of his being, to be someone who rides the dragon and moves through the dragon. So the idea is like almost of a knight, where the horse is almost like inseparable from the knight. It's part of the same being. They're connected, and they're going on adventures together. They're the same sort of thing almost. And I imagine the technical difficulties made this hard to, technical limitations made it hard to materialize this idea until the Super Nintendo came along. And then suddenly it was possible to do this. So it seems like it's a later edition, but I think that Miyamoto was already thinking about this when they were making Mario for the NES. At least that's the impression I get from the interviews. Or that at least, there were some very early sketches of this idea that Mario should ride someone. So what's weird for me about this is then that Baby Mario is riding Yoshi, and so Yoshi is part of Baby Mario's body. I think this becomes very apparent because, see, with Super Mario World, for example, Mario is riding Yoshi, but Mario can go on adventures without Yoshi. So it gives this impression that, okay, sure, Yoshi is someone Mario encounters and can ride, but it's not like a central part to how he's moving. But Yoshi's Island makes it necessary. It almost seems closer to that idea of the sketch of the knight that is inseparable from the horse, in that Baby Mario, yeah, you can use that sort of winged cap thing. You can use different sorts of abilities for Baby Mario to travel without Yoshi, but it always comes back to Yoshi. So Yoshi is always like the center of gravity for the identity of the protagonist. Baby Mario can't really exist without Yoshi. He can't move through the worlds and attain his goal without Yoshi. And yet Baby Mario has, within the structure of the game, a goal, which is to return home, to return to his parents in some way, to where he belongs or something, symbolically, right? Where he came from symbolically. He's returning home in some way. That's his goal. He has a goal. It's a pure sort of intention, goal. But he doesn't have the body to enact that intention. Yoshi doesn't have that intention. Yoshi, without Baby Mario, Yoshi wouldn't be going on this travel. Like, he doesn't need to go visit Baby Mario's parents. That's not his intention. But he is the way in which that intention can be manifested or something. And so he is the pure kind of mobility through which that intention is enacted or something. And they go together. They're not separate. That's the thing. In the game, it is always a sort of togetherness between these two beings, these two elements. And so it's funny because it also plays on the classic division between human and beast, right? It's so often juxtaposed, the idea of human and beast, in all sorts of folklore. And I mentioned that the dragon is part of that as a folkloric image, but, right, we have always these stories that juxtapose the human to the beast. Like, in this is more of like, for my own research, I would refer to fairy tales like what you call it, the Beauty and the Beast and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or something. These sorts of ideas where it's half human, half beast. These sorts of ideas. Werewolf, this sort of idea. And I'm saying this like, I'm not saying this is what influenced this game or anything. It's just that I feel like it drinks from that tradition, that sort of storytelling, where we juxtapose a human side to a beast side, and yet they're both connected, right? A side that is recognizable to us and a side that's sort of unrecognizable to us, that we usually wouldn't associate with or something like that. And I feel like then it's funny, it's almost as if this is what is happening in this cover, that this is a human and beast connection, but what's happening is that the beast and the human are looking at each other. They're seeing each other. And by beast here, I'm referring now to the whale. Like, the whale is being seen by the human. It's like, wow, enormous beast, much bigger than I am as a little baby human, apparently more powerful relative to me physically, and yet it's almost as if this thing that's so big and so powerful and relative to me is me. It's part of my identity. It's the self upon which I rest. I am resting on Yoshi, and I see this beast in front of me, and it is the same thing. I'm speaking here archetypally. It's the archetype of the beast. So the archetype of the beast appears twice, and once as something that is contemplated and seen as like amazing, So I find that really interesting. Especially because what's happening here is basically the natural world. This is just an example of the natural world, you could say. They're seeing the natural world. They could have seen this enemy as they could have seen any other enemy. Like, the game art could have just shown them seeing an amazing thing on their journeys, right? Because this specific enemy doesn't have any specific importance to the game or the plot. The reason they're showing it is just like as an example of the amazing splendor and awe-inspiring like power of the world and the enemies and the animals and the trees and the the flowers of what they're going to see. What they're going to see is like amazing. It's as a game, it's like this is the adventure you're going to embark on. You're going to go wow into this amazing world with huge blue beasts coming out of the water. So to me, it feels like this is the natural world is what is being expressed here, And so what Baby Mario is seeing is that the natural world is in some way part of his self, I think. That is the self upon which he rests, is the world, the natural world. That he is not separate from it. He's not just like he is, again, he can't live without it. He is completely in a sort of ecosystem relationship to it. He can't, if he becomes disconnected from Yoshi, he just suddenly becomes this sort of ethereal bubble. It almost, to me, it just represents ethereality, just floating up in the sky, disconnected from nature, just woo, and this is a state that makes that causes pain somehow. Baby Mario is crying. It doesn't last very long, right? You need to come back. So it almost feels as if Baby Mario can't live disconnected from nature, disconnected from a sort of relationship to things around him, but almost like all things around him, all of the trees, all of the rivers, all of the animals around him, that sort of a thing. I think this is in some way also, you could say that it's almost also being expressed by the fact that these are multiple Yoshis, right? Each map, I can't remember if it's each map or each level exactly, but you're circling through several Yoshis, right? The Yoshis sort of take turns. It's like a game of tag or something. The tag? I don't know. It's like the sort of game where you just you do one portion of the race, the next person does the next portion of the race, and so on. It's a team effort, right? There are loads of Yoshis, different colored Yoshis, and they're all like circling in this team effort to carry Baby Mario. So Baby Mario is one. It's like oneness. It's a single entity, a single sort of will or something, or identity. And then the Yoshis are completely multiple, complete difference and multiplicity. But all of this difference and multiplicity is what Baby Mario is completely attached to, completely in reliance of, if this adventure is to take place. So I think the fact that it's multiple Yoshis already evokes the idea of nature as a multiple place, right? As a thing that in relationship to the subject is a lot of things, right? You as the subject usually consider yourself one thing. It's me, right? It's a me, right? That's the typical like Mario thing. Like it's you. It's a one subject. But then you are in front of and surrounded by the world, which is usually seen as a lot of other things. The trees, the walls, the ground, and so on. All sorts of other people, all sorts of other animals. So I feel like Yoshis, the different Yoshis, represent a multiplicity itself of things that exist outside of the subject. And all these things that exist outside of the subject are the things precisely that are carrying the subject towards the subject's goal. There's like the subject needs to be, it doesn't need to be, but let's say the subject needs to be humbled to that fact or something, right? In an agreeable relationship to it. If not, nothing happens, nothing works. Like there needs to be a sort of a collaboration. In the same way that there is a collaboration between the Yoshis, between all the elements of the world, there is a collaboration, therefore, between the self, the identity, and all the things that surround it, with which it doesn't identify. In fact, this, you could say, is precisely what's happening. Sorry. It's funny. It's funny. And it's true. So it's like this is what's happening in this game art. That Yoshi is... not Yoshi. Baby Mario is seeing this big expression of nature while resting on the arms and back of Yoshi. So it's like, yes, this beast in front of me, it's a powerful thing that is other to me. This is other to me as subject. It's the other. It's completely different from me. And yet I'm resting on its back. So there is a double realization of this is simultaneously extremely other to me and extremely close to me, extremely me. It is me and it is other. Simultaneously, I'm having this realization that I am in a sort of relationship with the other that constitutes me. This relationship with the other is what allows me to even exist. Like, that's the thing. Without this relationship to the other, I don't exist. I become this ethereal bubble that just goes away and dies. Like, I am me as long as I exist as something separate from the other. It is because I am in relationship to the other. But also, as long as I am in relationship to the other is different from me, and I am different from it. So those two, I'm sorry, anyway, but I think something like that, right, is what's going through Baby Mario's head at this time. So I find that really interesting. I find it interesting also that I think this is partly some of the themes that are being explored throughout the game as you move through the game, although I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at the game itself that much. But clearly, first level has something about this, because at least the mid-boss always struck me, Bert the Bashful, in that there is this sense of this is a really big creature. Again, something awe-inspiring. Baby Mario is constantly encountering these creatures that are really big. But actually, originally, they were very small. They were almost his own size. But something happens for them to become really big. Right? And Bert the Bashful is big and clothed and sort of powerful. But then when the... I feel there's some connection here, but it would need to be explored. But in any case, that when the clothes come down, right? Bert the Bashful's clothes come down, and suddenly he's very bashful. There's like an embarrassment. And this embarrassment deflates him. And he becomes once again a tiny thing. Obviously, Baby Bowser Jr. is... I'm not sure who it is in this game, but Baby Bowser is sort of the same kind of idea. It's just that Baby Bowser is a small thing that gets transformed into a big thing. But here, the idea is emphasized that as long as this thing is small, it is a baby, like Mario is a baby. As long as this thing is big, it is an adult, because it becomes Bowser. It becomes symbolic of Bowser. It's not actually Bowser. It is Baby Bowser. It's sort of controlled by Baby Bowser, but it is Bowser in appearance, in archetype. It's the archetype of Bowser, the huge dragon coming towards you. Right, the huge dragon coming towards you. Again, the sort of idea of the box art, that what you're going to encounter in this game is, even though you're riding Yoshi to reach your destination involves confronting the dragon, the very dragon. The dragon, which is the archetype you're using to ride through this journey, is the archetype that you're going to have to confront in the very end. And this archetype seems to have something to do with this division between the small self, the baby self, and then the big self, the adult self. And both selves are the same self. It's always, like in this case, it's always Baby Bowser. But it clearly becomes two completely different kinds of entity. So all bosses in this game follow this sort of pattern. It's a small version, so you could say it's a baby version of it, like Baby Bowser is, and then it's a big version. So you could say it's an adult version of it, like Bowser is. Adult, right? Because the relationship between those two is very clear, because Bowser is the father of Baby Bowser, at least. I don't know if it's explicitly stated this way. I think it is. I think Baby Bowser explicitly says, my father will be angry when he finds out, or something. And there's a clear sort of son and father relationship going on. And so that there is a sort of association between adult, big adult, big sort of imposing, powerful, small baby, but in a relationship to the adult, because the baby is like son to the adult, or something like that. So if you were to express that in terms of Yoshi and Baby Mario, for example, you could say that Baby Mario is the son of Yoshi, in that Baby Mario originates from Yoshi, or something like that, right? That Yoshi or the world is the bigger thing, bigger than the subject, that births the subject. The subject is within the world as a consequence, not as a... I don't really want to talk about causality, but it is there as son to the world, as child to the world, right? This game is using masculine sort of gender, roles, but I think it can be taken symbolically for any person. I think the fact that it's masculine gender roles is probably interesting and important to look at, right? As it is in most games. Like, this is probably an important part of this game. And yet at the same time it works as a symbol, I think. So, right, again, like most things in our culture, there is a sort of symbolism that rests upon the masculine gender role because of its dominance of the material structures in which all of these works of art are created, and so on. So what's happening? There's a quest in this game, therefore, to find the parents. That's what Baby Mario is doing. Heading towards the parent. But the parent is the big thing. It's even depicted that way. We only see the parent's legs to emphasize how big and tall they are in comparison to the babies. So it's you're going towards this big thing that is bigger than you. And this big thing, and this is a further association that's being made in this game, this big thing is home, right? You could say that, for example, the world is home, but it is not felt to be home until the whole game happens. It is not felt to be home until this confrontation with all these big things happens throughout the game. And especially a confrontation with the big thing that is a dragon, and that therefore is a version of the Yoshi that you are standing on, right? The very thing that you're standing on, as completely other to yourself, gets confronted before you're able to feel at home in the world. Something like that is happening, I feel like that's part of what the game is doing. I'm not sure if any of the other bosses or mid-bosses could be read in these sorts of ways. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at it again. But yeah, I feel like something like that is happening, which is pretty interesting. It's also funny. I'm not sure what to make of the fact that it's all crayons and painted. That's funny. Like, everything is crayons, everything is painted, which emulates the sort of art style that we associate to childhood, right? I think that's why it's being done. These are drawings in a childlike style. They evoke childhood. They evoke using crayons as a child to draw with, rough kind of lines and things like that. So this is art. It's like the whole world is made by a child, or in an art style that evokes childhood. you know? So I wonder if maybe the whole game has something to do with childhood in this way. I mean, yes, on one hand, obviously, it's a game about a child. But it's I guess it's just interesting to me how the world the child is in is also a world made by a child. Even though the child is confronting all these adults, all these adult figures, as are shown in the game, were originally children. They were originally tiny, but they're transformed into big things. So the big adult figures didn't make this world. There are very few adults in this game. Everyone is a child. It's just that some of them have been transformed into adults. The world itself is made by children in some way. It is made with these crayons, with this sort of art, this form in which children would have to express themselves. It's the expression, the self-expression of a child is what this world is. It's what we are exploring. And Kamek plays a role here, right? And this is something that is interesting. I'm not really sure where to take this exactly, but Kamek is a part of this because Kamek transforms all of the animals into these big beasts. This is interesting, in order to stop Baby Mario and Yoshi from moving any further, it's like, I'm going to create an enormous obstacle to detain your movement towards me. But it doesn't work, right? The bosses keep getting defeated and defeated. But Kamek keeps on transforming the children into big things, into big things, into big things. And okay, there is one thing we could say here, is that it is possible that Kamek is the only adult in this game, in the sense that Baby Bowser is baby, everyone's baby. Okay, Yoshi maybe? Okay, maybe Yoshi. That's hard to tell. I think Yoshi is sort of beyond age, it feels to me. It almost represents like this sort of eternal state of nature or something. That's the sense I get from it, that Yoshi doesn't really enter into the aging game exactly. Very often dragons, I think, in mythology represent eternal living. They're creatures who live eternally, and represent eternity, eternal kind of processes or forces in some way sometimes. So I think that Yoshi enters into that category in some way. But Kamek is a very kind of like person. They are a magician, so they do magic, but they are in some way human. It's not human, but I think it represents personhood, right? It's clearly a person in this game, right? That there is a sort of a social interaction. There is like a language-based interaction between Kamek and the other characters, and the player at least, right? Or Baby Mario. There are words being addressed. So Kamek, it's funny then, because if Kamek is the only adult, and this is precisely what everyone is going to confront. The game is about going towards a confrontation with adults, be it your own parents or be it this enormous sort of fake parent that is Bowser that is confronted at the end. Several things come to mind here. In a sense, the big Bowser at the end is a fake parent because it is just an amplified version of the baby. It's like saying, it's like a parent that is entirely of your making. It's not an actual confrontation with the real other. It's a confrontation somehow with a sort of projection of the other that is based entirely on an image of yourself that has then been amplified. It's like if you deal with people in the world by, projecting all these sorts of images onto them that are just your own internal issues, but you're dealing with them as if they were the real person in front of you. It's almost as if what Baby Mario is doing is confronting this enormous projection, before he can even address and access the actual parent as other, the actual being that is other to the self as identity, whatever. So it's funny that could be going on, and then Kamek is playing an interesting role here, because Kamek would be an adult, but it's an adult that you never actually confront, because they don't see. It's funny, Kamek is not a huge towering adult. Kamek is like a sort of regular, sort of realistic, let's say, size, not a mountain-sized adult. It's like a realistic-sized adult in confrontation with Baby Mario. But what they're casting, see, that in a sense, this is it makes sense, I think, because what Kamek is doing is casting magic. They're casting illusions, some sort of magic, some sort of illusion in some way, where, this enemy is small, but I'm going to pretend that it's big. Right? And then Baby Mario and Yoshi defeat it and reveal that no, actually it wasn't big. So Kamek is just casting these layers and layers of illusions in front of Yoshi and Baby Mario, and they're just dispelling again and again all these illusions. Right? It's funny to me that the archetype of the adult in this game is a magician. If Kamek is like the only real adult that is not an enormous sort of mountain-like illusion, the real adult is a magician in some way. I don't know what that means, but I find that funny, because a magician is someone who does whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. They can sort of exert their will somehow, right? I want this thing to turn into a giant thing. Yeah, sure. I want this to be this way. Yeah, so that's funny. But also, what role is it playing within Yoshi's island, within Baby Mario's world? Because Baby Mario's world is in itself an illusion, in that it is drawn by children. It is already an illusion in the sense of a projection, an artistic projection onto a canvas, let's say, right? It is the imagination projected onto a canvas with art, with drawing utensils, right? Drawing utensils are being used to project the imagination onto a canvas, which is exactly what's happening with all the enemies. It's the small enemy being transformed by the imagination, by some sort of a magic. It's saying, oh, this actually is a big thing. I'm imagining this is a big thing. I'm imagining that Baby Bowser is actually Bowser. It's not actually Bowser. It's Baby Bowser, right? So anyway, so Kamek is using magic. I find it funny that magic is playing a role here. Like, what role does magic have in this game? And then the fact that it's an island, of course. Like, it's an island, it's something that's sort of, it's floating, and yeah, there are several issues around this issue of the island, which, I'd like to explore. I don't know if I'll be able to explore them here, but obviously it's an island, and it's Yoshi's island. This is not Baby Mario's island. This is not the Mushroom Kingdom. This is not Mario's territory exactly. It's not Mario's, right? It's an island that is Yoshi's island. The identity of the island, it belongs to Yoshi. It is an island that is Yoshi. Baby Mario just falls onto it. Right? It's funny though, it's a process through which Baby Mario has to go, maybe. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to say about it now, but it's like the island is something that Baby Mario is having to go through, and so it gets dropped there, and then from there it advances towards its original goal. And also the fact that it's I find it interesting that in being an island, it's something that comes out of the sea or protrudes out of the sea. It is surrounded by sea and sticks out from the sea. There's something about it, therefore, that's self-contained and that belongs to, like, it is a self-contained unit that's surrounded by sea. It itself is not directly connected to anything else, right? It's a landmass that's just self-contained. There's something about that's interesting. And funny how it could potentially connect to the box art again, because this is a beast that we're seeing that's coming out of the sea, out of the water. This is probably not the sea. This is like some lake or something, but it's coming out of this water. So it's an enormous body that's protruding out of water, right? It's Yoshi's Island in a sense. It's a thing that's protruding out of the water, and that is the thing that we're confronting. A big thing that's coming out of the water, and therefore is connected. Maybe you could say, okay, this is one way to look at it, is that it's connected to the depths. The ocean is something we consider very deep, right? Especially this sort of deep ocean that's far away from any other shore. So the island is something that hides enormously deep roots. Even though we can see the little peaks and volcanoes of it, it hides this enormous underground terrain to it. There is a dimension to this place that is really hidden and far away underneath. In a sense, maybe you could say that this is why Baby Mario falls from the sky. In that Baby Mario was in the sky, but there is something that pulls Baby Mario down, because there is an unacknowledged deep root to what is underneath him, right? So it's almost like that root, if it is a part of you, if it is a part of your identity, as we were saying before, like the Yoshi that you're standing on, if it is like the identity that you're standing on, and yet it is unacknowledged, completely sort of, there is not an acknowledgement of the depth of connection between this visible part of yourself, the island, and the depths of the ocean underneath it, whatever it is that's underneath it, then no matter how much you try to ignore that, you're not going to be able to continue living that way. In a sense, because you are not that. You are not disconnected from it. So you can try to live as if you're disconnected from it, right? In a sense, what Baby Mario is doing up in the sky is similar to what Baby Mario does when he turns into a bubble thing and floats in the sky. You're floating in the sky, but at some point that bubble is going to burst, right? Because, it's like, it's a silly metaphor, but it's like pretending that you, it's literally like pretending you can fly or something and walking through the street as if you were hovering. And at some point, your legs are going to sort of, your body in itself is going to bump against something. It's going to bump against a car or a tree or something, right? So it's almost like Baby Mario realizing that, yes, it's not just me, it's not just Baby Mario. There is a deeper part to me that I am connected to. And there is like some sort of some circumstance creates a requirement to look at that circumstance of being connected to something deeper, of being deeper into something that is who you are. I think, something like that. So yes, very interesting game. I'd like to play it more. I'd like to think about it more. Because yes, there is a lot to say about this game. I think this is enough for now, but There's a lot to say about this game. Thank you. That is enough for now. Thank you.